Okay, a very good morning, children. Please stay safe at home. So we are starting from where we left off in the last class was about liver and gallbladder, and all the associated functions and whatever details that we had knew that we needed to tell you about the liver. Coming to the next issue is jaundice and the liver function test. Whether the liver is functioning okay or not, how would you test that? Now one thing that you can see here is the yellow discoloration of the white part of the eye, which is called as the sclera. So we will take up a few symptoms, take up a few causes, types of jaundice, and how you would find out the details. Only something that we will leave out is the treatment. Coming to the other signs and symptoms of jaundice, the patient may complain of pale colored stool, dark colored urine, skin itching, nausea and vomiting, lack of appetite, rectal bleeding, diarrhea, chills and fever, and one very important symptom is weakness. So we can define jaundice as a condition where we see or we are able to visualize the skin, sclera of the eyes, mucous membrane, they turn yellow because of a high level of bilirubin, a yellow-orange bile pigment. Now the normal value of this bilirubin is 0.2 to 0.8 milligram per dl. And when then this becomes more than 2 milligram per dl, then these become visible as yellowish discoloration. One very frequent thing that we get in jaundice is about the adults who have jaundice, and this is something which we see in newborn. Most neonates develop a visible jaundice due to elevation of unconjugated bilirubin concentration during the first week. This is called as physiological jaundice. Now why this occurs is because the children have or the babies have a high number of RBCs which are broken down and replaced frequently. This system goes on frequently, and because of that, as the liver is not so well developed, the babies are not able to handle this, so there is a rise in bilirubin level. So if we come to physiological jaundice in newborn, these are a few prerequisites to identify it as physiological jaundice, because we have something which we call as pathological jaundice in newborn. This appears after 24 hours, up to 72 hours. The maximum intensity is 3 to 5 days in a term baby and 7 days in a preterm baby. But the level of bilirubin is less than 15 milligram per dl. And clinically it is not detected after 14 days and it disappears without treatment. Pathological jaundice in newborn, here the jaundice is detected even before 24 hours of age. Serum bilirubin is more than 5 milligram per dl per day. The serum bilirubin is more than 15 milligram. Clinical jaundice persists for more than 40 days. There is clay colored stool or the diapers may be darkly stained. Direct bilirubin is more than 2 milligram. So there is jaundice. Now this has to be treated. Whether you give him phototherapy or other treatments, we're not going into the treatment part. So this has to be treated. So if we come to the slide, it is showing the both physiological and the pathological jaundice and what are the differences. Appears after 24 hours, this appears within 24 hours. Here it is less than 5 milligram, here it is more than 5 milligram. Here the intensity is maximum 4th, 5th day or 7th day. Here it persists for about 14 days. Here it becomes better on 14 days. No treatment is required, and over here we have to treat patients. So coming to the types of jaundice. Now one thing that we know is that why jaundice is being produced is because of bilirubin, and bilirubin is coming from the breakdown of heme. This we had taken up in the last class. Breakdown of heme and how it is conjugated to give rise to with glucuronidation, so that it becomes conjugated bilirubin, because conjugated bilirubin is soluble in water, and unconjugated bilirubin is insoluble in water. So we have divided it into, since it takes the, why there is a breakdown, so more of RBC breakdown, so that is one part, pre-hepatic. Then something to do with the liver, so it is hepatic, and then something to do with the duct system, so post-hepatic. So you can have types of jaundice as pre-hepatic and post-hepatic. Now in the pre-hepatic, so obviously the reason will always be an excess of hemolysis. Hepatic would be due to impaired cellular uptake, defective conjugation, or abnormal secretion of bilirubin by the liver cells. Post-hepatic, there will be some problem in the outflow of bile. So to see that, what we find is, in case of pre-hepatic, there is more of unconjugated bilirubin. In post-hepatic, there is more of conjugated bilirubin. And hepatic has both conjugated as well as unconjugated. So a picturization of the same thing that we mentioned, pre-hepatic could be excessive hemolysis, as you can see here. As you can see here, there is more of hemolysis of RBC. So that's why there is more of bilirubin which cannot be taken care of. Or there could be hepatitis, viral hepatitis, cirrhosis. There are certain syndromes which their metabolic problems, toxins, drugs, neoplasm of the liver may give rise to hepatic jaundice due to the liver. And post-hepatic is usually due to gallstones. Gallstones we had mentioned earlier also, where the gallstones might be, where they can get stuck. And another thing is where the duct enters into the duodenum, the head of the pancreas is resting there. So anything that you have a neoplasm in the head of the pancreas is going to compress against this place where the bile is getting secreted into the duodenum. So this is the same thing written in a chart form. Now coming to the symptoms, we have already mentioned the general symptoms that we have mentioned, but what you can see is the color of the urine. It is normal in certain cases, pre-hepatic, hepatic is dark, post-hepatic is dark, stool color is normal in pre and hepatic is acholic. Acholic means it is clay colored stool, it's not dark brown. Pruritus. Pre and hepatic, usually there is no pruritus. But in post-hepatic, because of excess of bile salts, there is pruritus. Coming to investigations that you would do in a patient of jaundice is the type of bilirubin which is elevated. So this we had mentioned before. I have mentioned like pre-hepatic has more unconjugated, post-hepatic has more of conjugated, and hepatic has both. So one of the tests that we do for serum bilirubin is called as Van den Bergh test. We'll come to it next. In urine, you can see conjugated bilirubin, you can see urobilinogen, you can check for bile salt. Like bile salts are present in post-hepatic, more in post-hepatic and hepatic, absent in pre-hepatic. Urine color, acholorude, that is normal, dark is choleric, and dark is colored. So they are darkly colored in case of hepatic and post-hepatic. Stool color is clay colored stools in case of post-hepatic, the other ones are normal or dark brown in color. These things like AST and ALT will come to this. These are certain enzymes, or ALP. These are certain enzymes which we see when there is damage to the liver cells, hepatocytes are damaged. This is something like what we call as icteric index. Just a mention of it, that according to the color of the urine, you can check out how much is the bilirubin concentration. So this is called as icteric index. Now we come to the Van den Bergh reaction. This is one of the questions that you might have sometimes, direct and indirect Van den Bergh reaction. So the details. One is the principle. What is the principle of this? We take diazotized sulfonilic acid, and this reacts, when it reacts with bilirubin, it will form a purple color azobilirubin. So we have a direct and we have an indirect reaction. Now bilirubin as such is insoluble in water, but during its passage through the liver, it becomes conjugated. So the Van den Bergh test for bilirubin is, it is a specific test to see that there is an increased level of bilirubin. So normal, if you have a normal serum level, then Vandenberg reaction is negative. But what we're taking here, what is the reagent? It is a mixture of equal volume of sulfonalic acid in dilute hydrochloric acid and sodium nitrite. The principle of this is that if it is conjugated bilirubin, it is water soluble, it will give a direct bilirubin test or direct Vandenberg reaction. So we mix with diazotized sulfonalic acid and it forms azobilirubin and a purple colored complex. Direct positive test, Vandenberg reagent reacts with conjugated bilirubin and gives a purple color, but immediately, normally within 30 seconds. This we call as direct positive Vandenberg. And with this, if it's not giving any color, we add methanol and wait for 30 minutes, and it becomes positive. This is indirect positive. This is for unconjugated bilirubin. So to summarize this issue, we have conjugated bilirubin producing a purple color immediately. So it is direct Vandenberg. Unconjugated bilirubin gives a purple color on addition of alcohol, so it is an indirect positive. If it becomes light colored and then the color becomes more intensified, then we call it biphasic. So this is something of the same thing that has been written. Only one thing over here is that the conjugated, how the bilirubin is conjugated, the glucuronidal transferase and all that. And one important thing is that unconjugated bilirubin is neurotoxic. Kernicterus, it gives rise to kernicterus if it is more. That is what happens in case of many times in the pathological jaundice and pneumonia. And conjugated bilirubin is not neurotoxic. So once you decide that we have a problem with the liver, we have jaundice or something like that, we have to go through this protocol for all systems. Here we are paying more attention to liver, but as otherwise also we have to go through this protocol. Depending on which system is involved, we pay a little more attention. So we will have to take a history, we'll do a physical examination, we'll do liver function tests. You could also do a liver biopsy, liver scan, ultrasound scanning, abdominal x-ray, complete blood picture, serum electrolyte and medical resonance imaging, magnetic resonance imaging. Now these are some of the things, that protocols that we follow in more or less all places where we have to give a diagnosis. Over here we are taking liver function and liver biopsy and liver scan because it is more related, jaundice is more related to liver. So liver function tests, these are broadly classified as tests to detect hepatic injury, and second is to assess hepatic function, whether the liver is diseased or something, or whether the functions are wrong. So classification of liver function tests according to the functions are based on excretory function, synthetic function, metabolic function, storage functions, detoxification function. So these are the usual functions or actions of the liver, what it does. So when any of these things go wrong, there is a problem. So coming to the liver function test, these are classified as excretory function. For example, what do we excrete? We excrete bile pigments, bile salts, acids, bilirubin. Metabolic functions are, the liver deals with carbohydrates, proteins, fats, either for storage or for utilization. Synthetic capabilities, like what is it forming? Number one is albumin, the protein, and also some other coagulation factors. These are some of the synthetic function of liver. So we have to check whether about its capabilities. Detoxification, we are trying to remove things which is toxic to our body. So that takes place as detoxification, ammonia or drugs. Tests for liver injury. What does these? Over here we have certain enzymes, autoimmune markers, and markers of hepatitis virus infections. For example, if it is synthetic function of the liver, so we check the proteins. Normal total protein is 6.7 to 8.6 grams per deciliter, and albumin is 3.5 to 5.5. You also need to know the globulins. So why? because we have to find out whether the albumin globulin ratio is okay or reversed. Then serum cholesterol. Cholesterol also formed in the liver and is also excreted in the liver. Along with the bilirubin or bile salts. Then prolonged prothrombin time, which is to see when you check on prothrombin time, you also have a picture or also have an idea whether the coagulation factors are being formed or not. So this happens in case of chronic disease of liver and cirrhosis of liver. Albumin to globulin ratio is 1.5 to 2.5 is to 1. So globulin is less and albumin is more. So this albumin globulin ratio either is normal or it could be low Ag ratio or it could be high Ag ratio. If it is low, that means albumin is becoming less and globulin is becoming more. So whatever the conditions, it could be globulin is more, for example, multiple myeloma. If it is albumin is less, it could be cirrhosis of liver. Or other proteins are also less, then it is cirrhosis. The prothrombin time is less, then also it is cirrhosis. But if there is a selective loss of albumin, it could be due to kidney disease. The other way around, the globulin becomes more. Sorry, the albumin becomes more and the globulin ratio is less, still lesser. Underproduction of immunoglobulins. That could give a high Ag ratio. Cholesterol, for example, you can check the cholesterol level. The total cholesterol is the LDL bad cholesterol and the HDL is the good cholesterol. Now, higher cholesterol level may be either due to more LDL or more HDL. Either the good is more or the bad is more, both together the value becomes more. Why we need to know is whether the good or the bad is more is because HDL protects against heart diseases and LDL helps or is a major cause of clogged arteries. So it is bad. Over here you can find a chart like LDL is optimal is less than 100. Up to 129 is okay. Total cholesterol desirable is less than 200. Up to 239 is okay. HDL less than 40 is bad. It has to be more than 40. Within the liver, we have hepatocytes which are involved in the synthesis of most blood coagulation factors. Fibrinogen, prothrombin, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then antithrombin, protein C, S. This all you have read in the coagulation chapter. Whereas the liver sinusoidal endothelial cells, they produce factor 8 and von Willebrand factor. So for this, to check this, we check the prothrombin time. And liver is in charge of synthesis of many of these 1, 2, 5, 7, whatever is mentioned. And I've just put up the names here on this side. Elevated prothrombin time may be a reflection of decreased synthetic activity of the liver. Now prothrombin time is a test which measures how long it takes for the blood to clot. So you can check the bleeding problems. Usually it is measured in international normalized ratio. I'm leaving up that. I'm not going into details of this. If you're not taking blood thinning medicines, if you're not taking anticoagulants such as warfarin, the normal range of prothrombin time should be between 11 to 13.5 seconds. Coming to tests based on excretory function, what are you going to check? Serum bilirubin, urine and fecal urobilinogen, bile salts, dye. If you're putting the excretion tests, put some amount of dye and check how much is being excreted. Based on metabolic functions, tests related to carbohydrate. Galactose tolerance test. For lipids, it could be serum cholesterol you can measure. For proteins, it could be amino acid urea. That is, amino acids are being mixed in urine. Now, galactose tolerance test is you have to find out the based on the ability of the liver and to convert galactose to glycogen. So we take some amount of galactose and then check after 5 hours how much of it is excreted. Detoxification functions. There are certain fat soluble toxins and there are water soluble waste. So fat soluble toxins in phase 1 under the effect of cytochrome P450 enzymes, there could be oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis, hydration, and they may be excreted. On the other hand, the water soluble waste they get eliminated via urine, bile and stool, either through sulfation or glucuronidation, glutathione conjugation, acetylation and so on. But this also you need certain nutrients, vitamin, glycine, taurine, vitamin C, folic acid, glutathione. When there is a liver injury, normally the enzymes are increased. Transaminases, AST, ALT, alkaline phosphatase, bilirubin usually fractionated and gamma glutamyl transpeptidase. Now about the liver enzymes, alanine aminotransferase, ALT, and aspartate is AST. Now ALT is a more liver specific than aspartate transaminase. And ALT elevation process is longer than the aspartate transaminase. On the other hand, the aspartate transaminase, it is present in liver diseases, but it also present in myocardial infarctions, skeletal muscular dystrophy or crush injury. This is one more thing, one more slide to show again the liver enzymes, and over here the L has been a little highlighted to show that it is more pertinent to the liver. So liver cell damage due to inflammation, virus infection or cell death. When liver cells are damaged, these ALTs are enzymes leaks into the blood. So ALT is the most sensitive marker for liver cell damage. So a common serum liver chemistry test. So you have alanine aminotransferase or aspartate like hepatocellular will show you that there is a hepatocellular damage. Bilirubin or alkaline phosphatase will show you cholestasis or impaired conjugation or biliary obstructions. Prothrombin and albumin show you more of a synthetic function problem. And bile acids and glutamyl transferase is again for cholestasis or biliary obstruction. Causes of liver damage, it could be alcohol intake, excessive workload, smoking, prescription or over-the-counter medicines, infections or illness, acute or chronic, stress, processed food, sugar and white flour products, environmental toxins. Key detox minerals, allergies, food intolerances, poor nutrition, and coffee and energy drinks. So to come to the summary of the liver function tests, number 1 is based on the liver excretory functions, serum bilirubin, uric index, bile salts, bilirubin, urobilinogen or fecal stercobilinogen. Icteric index we have spoken of before, and this is the cycle which shows how the urobilinogen is formed in the intestine, conjugated bilirubin and the bacteria is forming urobilinogen. 50% is reabsorbed, some is excreted in stool and some pass through the kidney to appear in urine. This shows a bigger picture, the hemoglobin, RBC or the heme or hemoglobin breakdown, bilirubin, urobilinogen in the intestine, what is happening, and all of these are going to the portal system, then again being excreted in the bile. If it goes to kidney, then urobilinogen and urobilin in urine. If it goes to the intestine, then it forms stercobilinogen, and stercobilin gives a brown color to the stool. The next set of exams, the tests are based on liver injury and cholestasis. So all those enzymes that we have discussed. The third one is on the synthetic function. So the albumin and globulin and Ag ratio, amino acid urea and prothrombin time. Then on certain liver specific functions like alpha antitrypsin, alpha fetoprotein, ceruloplasmin and ferritin levels. Why do we need to do these liver functions tests? One is to assess the degree of parenchymal cell damage, to differentiate the type of liver disease, whether it is jaundice or hepatitis or obstruction or hepatoma. Then judge the prognosis of the patient. If you have done the liver function test before, you can do it again to find out whether the patient has improved or has become worse. If you have given some treatment, then again you do a liver function test to see how it has responded. So that is all about your liver, gallbladder and your liver function test and jaundice. Thank you.